Hi everyone, this is the last episode before we go live with Season 2. Woohoo! We got our friend David, who does the voice of Dacian, to interview each and every one of us. So you're about to hear 5 interviews, one with Casey, Arch, Neil, Eyþór and myself. And they're all conducted by Dacian, who isn't evil. His name is David, and he's an amazing human being, and I can't believe that he said yes to doing this. So thank you very much, David. Go check out all of his other amazing stuff. He's in the White Vault. He's in No Sleep podcast. Just go find him on Twitter. He's amazing. We'll put links in the description. So yeah, enjoy.
Okay, so I am joined now by Casey, one of the voices of the Lucky Die. Casey, why don't you start off by telling us who you are and
Casey.
What you do?
I do Casey things. No, mostly I write tabletop games. I work in marketing. I do marketing for tabletop games, and I do a lot of podcasts. I kind of, at this point in my life, have no life outside of tabletop gaming.
And I noticed that you've had a few successful Kickstarter projects as well.
Well, yeah, I work with the Nerdy City, and we, as a company, have had a couple pretty successful Kickstarters, 2 last year. So one of our books is coming out this summer. Pretty excited about it. Might even be out by the time this is out.
Well, it's currently September or October now. It's not the end of March.
Oh, then it is out now. And you've probably seen it all over my Twitter at this point. So.
Yes. And whereabouts are you based?
I'm in New York.
New York. What a fantastic city. In the city, I assume, not the state.
No, well, I am on the Jersey side, right outside of New York City, but I work in New York, and I spend a good portion of my time in New York. So I usually just say I'm from New York.
So you say that your life is mainly tabletop gaming. Why is that? What is the appeal for you of tabletop gaming?
Well, in playing it, it's like a fun escape, and it's a really great way to bond with people. I made a lot of really great lasting friendships through tabletop gaming. Most of the friends I have now I met through gaming. So yeah, it's like a really great way to like bond, like strangely, even though you're not actually being yourself.
Yes.
And in writing it, what appeals to me is that I can kind of help foster other people's creativity, which is something that I'm very interested in.
Excellent. And so how can you take us a little bit more into how you help other people foster their creativity a bit, please?
Well, with writing the games, what I try to do is like write really freeform games where there's like very baseline rules. So instead of it being like a real, like I don't really write crunchy systems or mods or anything. I'm like, this is your schematics that are very, very broad for what you can do with this game. And it's up to you and your imagination where you take it. And I feel like that's true even of games with like really crunchy systems, like D&D is really crunchy, but like people have done some really creative things with it. Like every time I play a homebrew, I'm just amazed at the level of creativity that my friends have.
So with the more freeform games, aren't you so much at the mercy of your players to have to improvise to be able to keep them within the game, if you like.
Well, the cool thing about like a freeform game is, so I'll use the example. This is the one game I've published myself so far that's like my game. That's a freeform game is a poetry game. So it's for 2 players and it's freeform because there's not like it's kind of like you write poetry to each other and there's not like a set thing that's supposed to do. Like you get to decide, you know, when it's over. Like I kind of give you guidelines of like, if you want, this is how much I think is probably a sufficient amount of poetry to like recite back and forth at each other. But if you want to go longer, or and this is like different types of poetry you can like dig into. But if you're like really into like, I don't know, like the poetic Edda and you want to like recite something similar to your partner, like that's up to you. That's not something I would personally do, but because it's a lot. But, you know, I also think I benefit from the fact that like at all the games I've been writing, I mean, I've run a lot of the Nerdy City games, and those are a little bit like slightly more structured because they have, you know, like a dice system and like a system for failure and stuff like that. But with the games that I've been writing, I haven't been, they're all basically like DM-less. So I kind of like put it out into the world and I'm like, now you do whatever the hell you want with it and let me be.
So okay, so your games, some of your games are without a DM, and it's the players therefore having to take ownership of the direction of the game.
Yeah, exactly.
Wow. And has anyone come back to you and said, we've taken your game, we played it, we loved it, and we've done this with it, and we want to know what you think?
Well, so far, no one has told me that they've played my game. I've gotten a lot of downloads on it, but I haven't heard a lot of feedback. But I sent it to a bunch of people in the industry who I'm like, I really trust their opinion, and they all seem to like it. And they all gave me really good advice for kind of what I could do further with the system I wrote for the game, because the game was kind of like this silly thing for a game jam where the subject was Cats, the movie.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah.
That's a very interesting choice.
Yeah. Hopefully by this point, I'll have published my uptake on that, or my update on that game where it's not about cats, so it's a little bit more accessible. It's going to be about reciting poetry to an older woman who you're trying to seduce so that you can murder her for her money.
I like the sound of this. This is brilliant.
Yeah.
And one of the things that you particularly like that you've mentioned on the website and other places is character creation. I'm assuming this is part of fostering other people's creativity, but also your own. Can you take us a little bit into that?
Oh my God, yeah. I'm big on character creation. I have like notebooks filled with characters I will never use. As I'm sure a lot of people who play like D&D and other tabletop podcasts do. So yeah, I don't know. The way with me, I think that everyone's like probably method for creating a new character when they're starting a new campaign is completely different. But for me, what I usually do is I try to come up with a concept first. So like for Zoltana, the concept was I had been watching Kill Bill and I was like, I want to do this but gay.
Brilliant.
And then for Maddie, I think I also like the media around me kind of influences me a lot. So when I decided to make Maddie for my Remember X podcast, I think I'd been listening to the Putnam County Spelling Bee soundtrack or cast recording. My friend gets so mad at me every time I call a cast recording a soundtrack, and I can just hear him in my head yelling at me right now. But yeah, I was listening to that and I was like, wouldn't it be fun to make a character who's like a spelling bee champion who lost out on like reclaiming the title. And then I found out that you can't really like ever be spelling bee champion twice. So then that kind of evolved from there. But it all starts with stuff like that.
Okay.
Yeah. And then you have to do a lot of research.
Yes. And so that's a lot of research for characters that you say you'll never use. Are these characters that could be used elsewhere, perhaps?
Yeah, definitely. I've gotten to use some of my characters from my notebook in weird places. Like for a really long time, I had this character concept for like an air genasi that was just a total airhead because, original. And she was just sitting there in my notebook, like wasting paper. And then I got asked to do a Storm King's Thunder game. So I used her for that. So some of them do get used. And then sometimes like, you can only play so many tabletop games at one time. So I'm sure they're all going to get used one day. But for now, who knows how long it's going to be before some of these ideas get to come to light and get brought to life, I guess.
Yes. And you mentioned earlier that Zoltana, you wanted Kill Bill, but gay. I suppose one of the great things about being able to create your own characters is that you can have representation of whoever you want, really. And I certainly find the LGBT plus representation in D&D and tabletop gaming to be really affirming.
Yeah, absolutely. It's great to be able to contribute to the zeitgeist in that kind of a way.
So do you think this sort of variety of character creation and world creation is part of the popularity, the current sort of surge of popularity of tabletop gaming?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I think it's a lot of listening to a lot of tabletop podcasts, you'll kind of realize like there's just so much variety in everything that's happening. There's like generally a pretty good variety in like the type of characters that are happening. And I feel like it like kind of, there's been like a shift away from what people like think D&D is. Like you think D&D and you think like maybe like the old D&D cartoon from the 70s, or you think about like people playing D&D in their basement. And there's always like some like a-hole rogue that like just wants to derail the party or whatever. Like that's what you think about when you think about D&D, but it's just really interesting because I definitely think that the amount of character and world creation going on right now, like when you look at like all the different kind of homebrews that are happening, I feel like some of the more popular things are generally tend to be like a little bit more homebrewy now.
And how did you get into tabletop gaming right in the beginning? What was the event or the who was the person that got you involved?
So when I was in college, my friend Nathan came over to me one day and was like, "Do you want to be in a D&D campaign?" And I was like, "I've never done that, so sure." And it wasn't actually D&D. It was like he made his own game system where it was like us, all my friends at the anime club in college. We were all ourselves, and it was like a magic world, and we all had like magic powers, and there was like a police trying to like arrest all the people with magic and like make the world not magic, and we all got to play both like a good guy and a bad guy.
Cool.
Which I think was like a really interesting thing about whatever the system was that Nathan made. So that was how I got into tabletop gaming, and I definitely spent more time in the cafeteria playing the various versions of that system that everybody started making than I did in classes.
Yes. and what brought you to the Lucky Die? What events were put into motion that got you to where you are today?
So with the Lucky Die, I'd been out of college for a while, and I had this friend, Chris, and he one day was like, "I know that you used to play tabletop and you were trying to get back into it." And he was like, "I have this friend, Arch, who is running a game right now. Do you want to, we need another person. You want to like come play?" And I was like, "Sure." So it was online. And so that's how I met Arch. And then I just kind of stuck with him with whatever games he was doing online. We had like a little group of us. And then after a while, he wanted to start streaming, and he asked me to be part of that. So then that was how I met Volley and Neil.
Mm-hmm.
And then like we were in the middle of whatever of the streaming thing, and Volonda was like, messaged me and was like, hey, I want to start a podcast and I want you to be part of it. And I was like, me? Wow, okay. So that's how that happened.
Wow. And one thing that Eyþór said in his interview was that he was a listener before he became a part of the team, and that when he came in, he was able to say to everyone where they'd used that particular potion or that particular spell or whatever previously, because to you it was a year and a half prior, and for him it was that week.
Yeah, it was definitely very helpful because I have notoriously got the memory of a gnat. So if I don't write things down on my character sheet, which I tend to forget to do, I always forget everything. I mean, it's pretty notorious inside the TLD that like whenever V's like, okay, who needs a reminder about what happened last week? I'm always the first person to raise my hand because I can't remember anything.
One of the things that is really important for Volley, Eyþór, in fact everyone at TLD, is the community that has built up around it. What are your impressions of your listenership?
They're amazing. Every time someone says something nice about Zoltana, I feel it with my whole heart. And I get so excited. And then I like immediately text my friends and I'm like, oh my God, guys, people like the character I play. And they're like, yes, it's been 2 years. You already know this. I'm like, but I don't. Like every time it's like very validating, and everybody's so sweet and like very easy and nice to talk to. And a lot of our listenership is very funny. If you're not in the Discord, you should be. It's just such a good community, honestly.
Have you ever had any fan art of Zoltana?
I have a whole file of fan art of Zoltana that people have made saved.
And does the art look the same way as how you picture her in your head?
This is like a question where I want to say it doesn't matter how I picture Zoltana. It matters how everybody else pictures Zoltana. She is whatever she looks like to you is what she looks like.
Do you think, global pandemics notwithstanding, that you'll ever all get into the same room and play one big game together?
God, I hope so. I keep saying I need to go overseas and visit Volley and Eyþór and go down and visit Neil. It'd be and I get to see Arch sometimes because we live pretty close. But it'd be nice for all of us to get together and be in a big room again. It was real fun the last 2 times it happened, but I don't think we really, like the first time we did that March that everybody came to the Tri-State, we got to play a couple games together, but I don't think we didn't like live play a game of TLD. I think that would be like the ultimate goal to get to do a live show of TLD. Or well, live for us, and then we'd record it, I guess.
How much, this is a question that's just popped into my head. How much of the audio from your games is edited down to the final podcast product?
Well, that's a really good question that I am not the best person to ask because I am... Like, I don't hear the audio for like a hot minute, and then by the time I hear it, it's already edited down.
Right. And, okay. And you can't remember how many swears on how many fluffs or anything like that.
No, not at all. And then sometimes there's like a blooper at the end, and I'm like, oh my God, did we say that?
And what would you say to someone that was interested in tabletop gaming but probably hasn't ever done it before? What would you say to them, the curious?
Oh my God, do it. It's great. There's a lot of really good systems out there, D&D obviously being one of them. If there's definitely a system out there that is doable for you, and don't ever feel like too intimidated to to play. Like, I feel like that's something that I've heard from people, is that sometimes they get like too intimidated because there's like so much lore in D&D. Make your own homebrew. Just learn the, basic rules and don't worry about it. Like, it's super fun. Don't let it be intimidating.
Because actually, that's one of the things I have only just. Well, I say only just. It was a year and a bit ago now. Did my first and only mini campaign in D&D, and Travis from the White Vault and Liberty, etc. He helped just create me a character sheet, and I remember getting this character sheet through, and there were 3 pages, and there was a whole load of magic and stuff like that, because I played a tiefling rogue. And it was just like, this is all very intricate and very detailed, and intimidating, a bit overwhelming. But yeah, we played. It was about 16 hours long. I think we had 2 days of 8 hours. I think it was great fun. But to begin with, unless you have someone that sort of knows and is able to talk you through, it could be a bit daunting.
Yeah, it's like, everybody always says D&D is a very crunchy system, and it definitely is. I've been playing D&D for, God, five years now, and like 3 years as a professional D&D podcaster, and I'm in like 2 D&D games outside of TLD with like my friends, like in person usually. They and I always forget what I'm doing, and then I jokingly always go, "You guys, I'm a professional," and they all laugh, because obviously I'm a really bad professional, because I can't remember what dice I need to roll to if I don't have roll 20, I'm like, wait, what dice am I rolling for damage again? What's my modifier?
A professional D&D podcaster, why do you think D&D lends itself so well to audio?
Well, I think it's because D&D at its core is like a theater of the mind kind of a thing, and you don't need any visuals. In fact, it encourages you not to have any visuals. Like, I mean, obviously there are people that play with maps and minis, which is awesome, and I've never done that, but it looks really fun. I mean, I guess I've done like the Roll20 equivalent, where you have like a little map on the background and like tokens, but I've never gotten to paint a mini. But for the most part, like, D&D wants, like, they want you to describe everything in really good detail, so everyone gets like a really clear picture in their mind of what's going on. So I think that's why it kind of lends itself so well to an audio format. You don't really need the maps and the minis. You just need the words.
And at its heart, it's storytelling, and it's a combined group narrative that everyone has that ownership of. Oh,
yeah, absolutely. I love collaborative storytelling like that. That's one of the other reasons I got so into tabletop gaming. Collaborative storytelling is the bomb.
And what's your favorite standout moment from your tabletop gaming history?
Oh, boy.
And I'm sort of throwing you in at the last moment on that one, but I'm intrigued.
I feel bad because I feel like I should say one from the Lucky Die, because like it's we've had so many good moments, but like for me, one of the things that really like has taken the cake for me in terms of tabletop gaming is so. And this is going to sound real harsh, like when I start telling this story, because like it seems like something a DM shouldn't do, but like it was real good. I promise it was. So I was in like a Tuesday night game of Rememrex, and we'd had like the last episode, quote unquote, we called them episodes. My character's boyfriend, well, she had gotten into a fight and her boyfriend had gotten slashed in the neck, and it had ended like really ambiguously with him in the hospital, and like there was like a lot of other stuff going on. So then the next episode, me and my friend who played my boyfriend both actually got to game a little bit late. So what had happened is that before game, the DM had said, "Hey guys, Jim's character is dead.
Oh no.
but we don't tell Jim and Casey. We want you to act like he's going to be talking, and we want you guys just to act like you can't hear him, but Casey's going to be able to hear him. So like there was like a whole we were all teenagers, so there was like a therapy session, and we were all the therapist was ignoring Quint, and my character Callie was just getting really, really angry because she was angry about everything anyway, because they were trying to like convince her that everything that had been experiencing was like not real. And eventually like the therapist was like, Callie, what are you talking about? Quint's not here. And then Callie looks up and she realizes there was no therapy session. She's been at Quint's funeral this entire time.
What?
And then it was just like it was just such an impactful moment. And it just like, again, it sounds like something bad, but it was really impactful to me. And like that whole episode, like it affected me so much that like I couldn't get out of my character's headspace for like a couple days, and I had to write a whole story about it.
Wow.
Like, and then there was like a whole other thing in the episode where like she, went and she finally was able to like kind of get him back through a deal with the game's devil, but he was like not necessarily cool about being back. And that really, it was just like the whole journey. Whoa. The whole journey was so good and impactful. And to this day, it's still one of the greatest sessions of a tabletop game I've ever played, because it just hit me emotionally in the exact right spot. And like, I can remember like to the detail exactly everything that happened in that game, which is, for me, I have the memory of a gnat. So
yes. And I suppose with all of those emotional journeys that you go on, you must have made such good friendships through tabletop gaming as well.
Oh my God, yeah. Like I said, every single person I'm friends with right now, other than my roommate, I really met through tabletop gaming. It's insane, and it's crazy because like I feel like everyone I'm friends with also has like a game they're writing or a game they want to run. So I get to play such a like insane amount of different games, and I feel so lucky.
Mm-hmm.
Get to play test some cool games that my friends are writing. It's great.
What about your favorite moment, maybe from a Lucky Die episode?
This show is like such a big part of my heart, and it's weird because there are so many like really great moments, but I think probably my favorite moment is, I would say, just the entire fight with Davros. Like, I feel like that was the first time that we had the world breaking apart, and it was just such a like crazy thing to happen in a game, and I think that it really was probably one of the best put together and most interesting fights I've ever been in. Plus, it was very emotional for me. I always say that if you want my everlasting love as a DM, make me cry. I'm not sure if I cried in that game specifically, but it was very emotionally heavy for me because of Zoltana's ex-boyfriend has her wife in captivity, and she's trying to fight him, and it was really great. And then like, it also, there was like a lot of stuff with Raul, hour of reaping like every 5 seconds to try to like go save my wife. It was just probably, I've listened to that like maybe every time I'm feeling a little bit like down. I'm like, I know what episode of The Lucky Die I need to put on to feel like to pump myself right the fuck back up. I'm allowed to curse, right? That's okay.
Oh yeah, absolutely. If you curse on The Lucky Die, then you can curse on here.
That's fair. I curse a lot on The Lucky Die. Definitely not a family show.
No. By the time this comes out, your new or an updated version of that game will be out?
Yes, and possibly another game I'm working on. We'll see.
Fantastic. Well, thank you very much, Casey, and we will see you on the next season of The Lucky Die. And now it's time to welcome Arch. Arch, have you ever listened to The Lucky Die at all?
Oh, actually, I'm doing a whole listen through right now with my girlfriend, and it's just wonderful. It's great.
That must be, how many hours of content has TLD put out?
Far too much for my liking, apparently. We just finished 75, and it's like, I swear, every single episode that I listen to, I'm like, how long is this episode? I don't remember some of this.
But it must be, I suppose you are no stranger to tabletop gaming and RPGing and things like that.
Oh, absolutely not.
So you've been player, DM, probably everything else in between.
Map maker, encounter creator, monster maker.
So you must have been exposed to an awful lot of stories over the course of the years.
I would say so, yeah. A lot of it, I kind of just draw inspiration from books or movies, and then some of it's just from my twisted imagination.
Everyone has one of those. All the best people.
At least the fun ones.
So what originally brought you to D&D? What's your history there?
So, flashback moment here, a little wibbly-warbly scene.
Yep, I'm picturing it now.
To very young Arch in early high school, like freshman year, I want to say. All right, So already a pariah in the high school community, you know, being a nerd back in early 2000s was still considered unacceptable.
I remember it well. Well, mine was the 90s, but yeah, I remember.
The days when card games and things like that being played at the table at lunch were considered a big no-no.
Yes.
By card games, I'm not talking about like, oh, you know, like Joker or poker or anything. I'm talking about like Yu-Gi-Oh! Pokemon.
There were reasons why we went behind the bike sheds, and they weren't the usual reasons.
Yeah, my friend group wasn't that smart. We kind of just did it at lunch and then learned real fast that maybe we shouldn't.
Yep. I feel your pain. So I'm picturing it now. Yes.
All right. So way back when my birthday came around, and my dad decided to buy me as a present the D&D 3.5 starter kit.
Okay.
I was mildly aware of what D&D was back then, mostly just as the joke that many people in school would make it as the basement-dwelling, acne-riddled nerd game that people would play back in the 80s. I started reading through the book. I started looking at the material that came with the starter kit, which consisted of some pre-generated characters, like a quick start manual on making a character, a quick start manual on playing like the equivalency of a one-shot that would take literally an hour to complete.
Right.
And it came with some miniature figures. One of which was a wyvern, which I thought was really cool and actually was my favorite.
Very cool. Okay, yes.
So he bought me that, and I was like, this is really cool. And then it sat in my closet for about a year and a half. Until one day my friend Chris was like, you know what? Why don't we play? And I was like, okay, but none of us know how to play, really. And he's like, well, you have the book. We'll look through it. We'll make characters at the table. And then I'll DM. And I was like, you're going to DM. And he's like, yeah, give me like a couple days to put something together. And I'm like, okay. He didn't put something together, as I later learned out. He actually just straight up used a supplement, which many people may be familiar with. What the hell is it? The Hidden or Sunken Temple, or the Hidden Temple, or something like that. It was one of the 3.5 pre-created like campaign story things that you can do.
Okay. Yes.
I didn't know at the time, but it was a lot of fun. It's in the Yawning Tavern book that they released, and that was the first foray that I ever had in a D&D. And fast forward now, and here I am sitting and talking with a famous voice actor doing an interview for a podcast.
Oh, flattery will get you everywhere. I appreciate it.
Listen, we're all fans of you in this podcast.
Really?
I'd be lying if I didn't say that.
Really? Okay. That's just thrown me a curveball. Thank you very much.
Welcome.
That's just completely thrown me now.
I would be remiss if I didn't try to throw you at least once during the interview.
That you're the first person that's actually tried and succeeded.
Much like my character balance, I too like to play mind games.
So, you also have been a DM on various games, I would assume.
Yeah, I'm actually DMing one right now every Saturday night as a private home game. And then I DM'd for some streams that I did. I DM'd other private games, including my original one that I did a few years back that was essentially my first foray into DMing, and that was a whole thing itself.
And what is it? What's it like being the DM versus being a player?
Oh God, it's so different. It's so different. When you're a player, you can just kind of show up at the table and then just be like, all right, I got my clickety-clack math rocks. I got my character sheet, and I'm going to play my character, and we're going to have a good time. And then there's the DM, where there's a few different types of DMs, I feel like, and depending on which one you are will dictate how the course of events go.
Yes.
Where you've got I prepare for hours and hours and hours on end. V is a good example. Where there's just so much work put into it, and then invariably your players are going to take the biggest wrench that they can find and jam it so hard in there that half of your notes mean nothing anymore. Then there's the zero preparation DM, where they just show up at the table much like the players do, and then they just improvise on the spot, which can either be very, very good or very, very bad. Because either they're very, very good at improvising, and then everything's fine because then everybody's having a good time, or you're really, really bad at it, and then just kind of things start to feel awkward. And then there's myself, where I like to say I fall in between. I like the idea of making a world and a campaign where you kind of work in broad strokes and then work out the finer details as you get near to them. And then at the same time, a lot of it is also improvising as well. So it's like, make the whole world as a whole. Like, the first thing I do is I make a map. Before I even create a story, I make a map. Because I feel like when you make the map itself, it makes its own story. Like, if you just say, you know what, this looks like a good spot for a mountain range. Maybe a week later, you're like, all right, there's a mountain range there. Why? Who lives there? What sort of creatures inhabit it? And then you kind of can build off of this blank slate that you've created for yourself. And that's what I do.
Excellent. And what is the biggest wrench that your players have thrown at you?
The biggest wrench I've ever had, and the funny thing is, it's happened twice now, in almost exactly the same manner.
Oh, no.
Is the very first campaign that I ever DM'd. Basically just had it as a home game. I had some friends of mine from online, as well as my one friend, Chris, who had mentioned was my first DM. I basically had them all online. We were playing. It was my own homebrew campaign, homebrew world and everything. And they were essentially trying to get across this very large chasm to get into the Dwarven kingdom.
Okay. Yeah. Seems perfectly reasonable.
The dwarves in this world were kind of the progenitors of Magitech. So they have a bridge. It's an invisible bridge. And it can be turned on from a switch that was like way across the chasm on the other side. So naturally, the smart thing to do is, of course, try to just, latch some rope across the way and then just swing across. Because, that makes sense, of course.
Yes.
What doesn't work out so well with that plan, though, is when you botch your roll to actually get across and then end up face planting into the cliffside and then plummeting into the chasm.
I can see that would be detrimental to health.
Detrimental to health, and also my creation of how things were supposed to progress. I had backup plans. I always have a what if this happens. But the problem was that I was so hardcore insistent that there's no way that these guys could fuck it up this badly that they would ever hit this problem. Well, they hit that problem, and the one character started falling into the chasm. So I'm like, you know what? We're going to end the session here. And then the one person that fell, I'm like, you and I need to have a little bit of a one-on-one role play here afterwards.
Mm-hmm.
Because at the bottom of the chasm, it wasn't death. It wasn't spiky pits. I don't like those just, oh, you fall, you die type things.
Mm.
There's actually a bunch of spider webs laid out by Drow.
Okay.
Because they live down there. They live beneath the dwarves, and they have a whole scheme going on where those webs are laid out so that when idiots drop shit off of the chasm, well, hey, free money.
Yeah.
Only this time, instead of it being money, it's a person.
It's a person, yes.
This campaign that I'm DMing on Saturday, they did the same thing.
Oh, no.
Only this time it was the entire party, which was a lot nicer. They fell off, they hit the spider web, and yeah.
So they're now coming at the Dwarven Kingdom from beneath rather than from across.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. One of the things in Dark Dice, which was my first and only foray into D&D so far,
So I heard.
was we were just coming to we'd been through a whole load of spooky stuff, and then we came to a house, and there were two sheds on either side, and the door of the house opened, and Travis said, "Do you want to go inside?" And all four of us just went, "Nope, absolutely not going in there. That'd be stupid. Who's going to go into a big scary house?" And we just, and he said, "But that's 4 pages of my my notes gone."
Well, yeah, Travis, that's how that works.
Yes.
You make a bunch of notes and we ignore them.
Yep. And so he did manage to use them again later on, but it was it was quite I could just hear the disappointment in his voice of, "Oh, okay. Are you sure you don't want to go in?" No.
It's exactly the same for anybody that has ever played Call of Cthulhu, ever.
Right.
Do you want to go into the haunted house? No. All right, we're leaving. Cool. I guess you get to live another day.
Hooray.
You do not go
And
insane.
so as a player, do you actively try to thwart your DM?
All right. All right. You're kind of hitting a V. I'm sorry. This later, V. I'm sorry. I kind of made balance in a way where, okay, so I made balance initially to satisfy my desire to play an Awakened Mystic, because I had played one briefly in a campaign before we ever started the Lucky Die.
Mm-hmm.
And I wanted more. I wanted to play all of it.
Mm-hmm.
The issue was that campaign kind of fell apart as we were getting towards the end too, which sucked. But I made balance with that goal in mind at first. And then the more and more that I worked on making balance and who he was and how his personality would be, his backstory and everything, I was like, this kind of character could really do some damage. And I don't mean rolling dice damage. I mean like just whatever secret agendas or plans might be in place, I could probably fuck some shit up. And I'm proud to say that I have in some cases.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm disappointed to say that in other cases, I have missed some things that were not any fault of my own, but that of Roll20.
Yes.
I don't know if
that.
you've heard of the Roll20 curse, but it is very
I
real.
have not heard of the Roll20 curse, but do enlighten me.
Oh, it's just that Roll20 fucking hates me.
Oh, right. Mm-hmm.
I kid you not. In the same session, Neil rolled, I want to say, 6 nat 20s in a row. And then there's me, where I'm lucky in some sessions if I roll higher than a 10.
Ooh.
Because Roll20 legitimately hates me. Which is why I'm very happy that with balance, most of his abilities, at least in terms of combat, require other people to do things that require rolling, not me.
Mm.
I will make other people attack for me, or I will make the opponent have to make a saving throw, because then I don't have to roll dice. They do. It's fine.
That's a very clever way of doing it.
When the system works against you, you have to work on abusing the system as much as you can.
That's fair. And so has there been a particularly memorable time where you have done something and V has hated you for it?
The first one that comes to mind is, and this is pretty early on it happened, was, I want to say, like I think it was episode 10. We had just done the whole mirror scene and everything, and we came back out, and Marnak was telling Balance in his head that with his psionic abilities, he could potentially tap into people's histories, look at their memories, and see things that they had done in the past, things they had experienced. And Marnak had essentially been trying to manipulate him in some way into using it on Rawl. Or I should say, V was trying to manipulate me into using it on Rawl. Me was not having that, though. So me turned around and said, I'm going to use the ability on Marnak. And V kind of just stopped and was like, what? I was like, I would like to dive into the memories of Marnak. He is actively encouraging me to violate the memories of this new companion of mine. That's a little weird. So I'm going to go into his because, yeah. And then after a moment, V was like, okay, we'll do this. There will be consequences. I'm like, there's always consequences.
But you just need to try.
I did.
Exactly,
I succeeded too.
Yeah. Oh, brilliant.
Marnak didn't like it, but you know what? Got some cool info out of it.
Exactly. Yeah.
And to be fair, it was very in character too. Balance is not one for being manipulated. He likes being the manipulator.
So you build up a picture of someone that is really into creating various different things, from stories, improvisations, and worlds. I suppose that is what D&D is for you, or is there more to it?
The biggest thing for D&D, to be honest, is it's kind of just an escape for me. Not as much in recent times, but for the longest time, it was a way for me to be somebody else because I didn't like myself. Not that I didn't like myself, I didn't like my life. I always like to say every person has their own tragic backstory. Everybody has their own things that they've gone through, things that they're dealing with even now.
Yep.
And that's no different for me. There's a lot of things that I've had to deal with in my past, and D&D for a very long time was always just a way for me to forget about my own life, forget about the things that I've gone through, and play this character that I create myself, who may have had their own tragic backstory, but feels like they can actually do something about it. Or at least feel like I could play somebody who can accomplish a lot more than I can.
And so what has the community response been to Balance? Because it's quite an empowering character to play, and it must be a wonderful character to listen to and be on the side of. So what's the community response been like?
From my perspective, I actually feel like most people don't like Balance.
Really?
It kind of hurts to admit, and to be honest, most of the interactions I've seen, most of the way I've seen things going on the Discord, on Twitter, I even with the reviews for the podcast,
wow.
The vibe that I get from the community is that most people are not overly fond of Balance because they either view him as being too bossy or too nosy or just, I guess, maybe unrelatable. It sucks.
It does. Yeah. That
I'll be the first to admit it actually does kind of hurt.
Okay, so that's how people feel towards Balance, but what is their response to you as a person? I'm assuming that they can detach you from your character.
Oh, definitely. I mean, at least in terms of the community on Discord and Twitter, from what I've experienced and from the interactions I've had, They're nice to me. They like me. At least I think they do. Yeah, it's not a problem of like any interactions between me, Arch, and them. I think it's just a difference of character.
I just find that fascinating how people can then go on listening, even with a character that they are either indifferent to or not favorable towards, and still want to be a part of the story, which just goes to show how good the story and the podcast is.
I think a lot of it is, how do I explain it? You're aware of Game of Thrones?
I am, yes.
Have you watched it?
I have.
Okay, the best way I can explain it, and by no means am I comparing this person to Balance, but the best way I can explain it is Joffrey.
Oh, yes. Okay, yes.
Everybody fucking hates that character with a goddamn passion.
Yep.
But you have to respect the fact that the actor did such a fucking good job with that character.
Oh, yes.
It's one of those. It's like, there are times where you're like, I want to stop watching because of this one asshole. But at the same time, I have to respect that they're doing a really good job at making me hate them. Not that I went out of my way to make it where people would hate Balance. It's just I made a character that I guess people just don't like how they behave.
That's a good way of putting it.
Granted, he's grown a lot. He's a lot different from how we started.
Has any of that growth come from the feedback that you've got? Or has it been all in-world characterization?
Very little of it is feedback. I like to try to avoid outside influence on my character. Mm-hmm. Most of it's definitely all story influenced and in-character interactions.
Yeah.
Because the thing is like, that's kind of how Balance is as a person is... He was very naive at the start because all he'd ever known was the royal life, and then that was all abruptly stopped, and he was thrown in jail for 50 years.
Wow.
So, like, a lot of people never really considered it, but in elf years, he was still very young. By equivalency, when he turned 100 years old, he was only the equivalent of an 18-year-old in human years. And as we know, most 18-year-olds are fucking shitheads.
Yes.
So I don't think a lot of people put that into consideration when they go, oh, Balance is kind of a snooty asshole, or like, oh, he invades people's privacy. It's like, he was only the equivalency of 18 years old when he was suddenly thrown into jail, and then he was in self-isolation for 50 years. So yeah, he's not going to have some of those same boundaries and understandings that other people would have. And then as the story went on, he grew and he learned and he became a better person because of it. And actually, I, in more recent episodes, have even said, like, if things had not gone the way they had, he probably would have been just some snooty elf living in the capital, and he wouldn't have that kind of real world experience to put things in perspective.
That's brilliant. Because I'm just speaking from someone that I don't do D&D. I don't listen to D&D podcasting and things like that. So hearing that sort of character arc happens is mind-blowing to me.
It kind of just has to come naturally is the thing. And I think a lot of people try to force it too hard with characters. Like, people play games and then some people just never grow. Like, and I can't even say that it's their character that never grows, because I genuinely think it's just that the player isn't willing to allow the character to grow. They'll write a backstory for their character, they'll play the character, and they're like, this is my character, that's it. But I find it so much more fun when you make your character as an open book and you're writing the pages as you go. You've got a few chapters in there that you created yourself in the start, but then let things alter and grow as the story progresses, because that's how people work. As you live your life, things change.
And so, yes, it's the nature of D&D as collaborative storytelling, where, yes, you're not just telling a story of your own with a group of people. You are helping to write everyone's stories together.
That's a good way of putting it. I like it.
As guided by, but not necessarily totally influenced by, the DM.
To a fair extent, yeah.
And so, what if you were to look back at the vast range of your experience with D&D? Can you pick out one standout memory that you have of your gaming experience?
I'd have to say probably in that very first game that I played with my friend Chris. There was a point where we were tasked by this group of, I think they were kobolds. They were saying that their pet had escaped and they wanted us to bring it back. And if we did, then they would allow us to pass on to the next level of this big dungeon that we were in. They were like, we lost it from our pen. It went out some direction this way. We were like, all right, great. We'll go get it. So we go and we find the pet, and it turns out that it's a baby white dragon. And my friends at the time didn't understand all of us didn't understand the whole chromatic versus metallic alignment thing.
As someone that knows nothing, I don't know either. So
basically in D&D lore, it's supposed to be that any of the metallic dragons, so like the gold, bronze, all those types are good in alignment. And then any of the base colors, so black, white, red, blue, any of those dragons are considered naturally evil.
Okay.
None of us knew that, so we didn't play it into the story, and we were just like, oh my god, it's a baby dragon. And at first it was scared of us, but like we made friends with it, and it was super chill. And then we noticed that like it kind of had some like whip marks and some abuse look to it, and we were like, oh. And we were like, we don't want to bring this back to them because they're just going to be mean to it again. And then then Chris pulls me aside and he's like, you're a lawful good cleric. You and I are going to have a discussion of alignment if you're not going to keep to your word and bring this dragon back.
Yes.
And I had to stop and sit there and go, shit, that's an interesting, like, outside of the whole alignment thing, I liked the idea of there being that gray lining of, like, there's a good side to this and a bad side to this. I like those moral conundrums where it's like, yeah, I could, or no, I couldn't. And I feel like that kind of really shaped me as a person, because now I love those morally gray areas where you kind of really have to take a step back and go, what do I want to do with this situation? Because this is going to have an impact. Which, by the way, we unfortunately did bring the dragon back.
Oh.
I was outvoted. My character was the only lawful good in the party. The other two were like chaotic neutrals because they were both fighters, and I was just...
And I suppose you don't know what happened to the baby dragon. It went out of the story and you progressed on to your next level.
Yes, and then we went back and got it later.
Oh, good.
No, because we discovered a large portion of money at the end of the dungeon, and I went back to... My character went to the rest of the group and was like, I will give you some of my share of the money if you guys come with me and we go back and get that dragon.
Oh.
So by the end of the story, my character had a new friendly baby dragon with him.
Oh, that's brilliant.
As he went about trying to cure the world's ailments, as was his very two-dimensional backstory. He was a cleric trying to fix the world.
Brilliant. We could use a few of those nowadays.
A few thousand right now.
Yeah. Right. Just before I wrap up, is there anything else that you want to mention?
I love all of you. I hope you're enjoying the story that we're making. I'm sorry that you guys don't like Balance as much as I do, but that's okay because he's still integral to the story, right?
Absolutely.
I will do my best to try to be the community manager that we need for TLD, and I hope that we continue on for a very long time. Especially because I would like to try to make this sort of thing a career if possible, but I understand that's kind of a dream.
Well, here is hoping. Fantastic. Well, we will look forward to hearing you again in season 2. And until then, it's been a pleasure. Thank you very much.
Thank you for the interview. That was fun.
So I know this voice as Jonas in The White Vault or Father Westpike in Dark Dice, but Eyþór, why don't you tell us who you are?
Well, I'm Eyþór, born and raised in Iceland, on a small island off Iceland called Vestmannaeyjar. Yeah, I'm just a person who accidentally got into voice acting, which accidentally got me into podcasting, which accidentally got me into TLD and White Vault and Dark Dice and all that other great stuff.
Absolutely, yeah. So Iceland, I love it. It's a beautiful country. I've been there a number of times. What is it like in terms of the sort of podcasting community? Is it a big output?
No, it's a strangely small one, and it has a very strange flair to it, I would phrase it. So the biggest podcast is actually made by our version of the BBC or whatever you want to call it. It's a woman who talks about like basically history and like strange, interesting things. I've never personally listened to it, but I only know about it because literally 5 people in a row told me the whole like China uses pandas as political influence and blah, blah, blah. It was just like... I would recommend listening to it, but it's in Icelandic, so
Icelandic is an interesting language. Where does it come from? What are its roots?
Well, there's like I can't exactly answer that because I'm not I think it's called a linguist. But Iceland is a part of Old Norse, and it's a Scandinavian language, and it kind of preserved itself in a weird way because we were kind of cut off from the rest of Europe. Basically, the entire like I don't even know what to call it. Like from 1000 to like early 1800, we're barely getting tourists. We're barely getting anything, and we're not getting any real influence. Iceland was like I think I'm not incorrect saying it. Iceland was a third world country in 1920.
Wow.
Yeah. My great-grandfather legitimately thought about buying a house with mud floors. Like it's and the generation gaps in Iceland are short. Like my parents are only 20 years older than me. Their parents are like close to 20 to 30 years older than them, and then their parents were close to 20 years older than them. We're genuinely just kind of getting out of the whole like 50 babies because you lose 30 of them out at sea kind of mentality, and the other 20 is a risk. So yeah, where the language really comes from, I think it's just Old Norse, but just with a heavy tint of just isolation and whatever like little jaggedness that happens from isolation without influence.
And I've been to Iceland, so I didn't meet anyone there that didn't speak English. Everyone seems to be very good at learning other languages in a way that we very much aren't.
So I think in 50 to 60 years, Icelandic is not going to be recognizable from what it is today. We have not been good at it. Like I think the German and the Danish do this. They have a legal requirement that any material that is expected to be watched by 18s or younger has to be dubbed and available for dubbing in the same place you get it. We didn't do that, and we've got massively influenced by English. And as you can probably tell by my lack of accent, I've basically assimilated English into my brain. And my girlfriend makes fun of me because when we started dating, I spoke Icelandic in my sleep, and now I have moved to English in my sleep. So yeah, it's affected me to a very high degree, to such that my family mocks me for my like inability to say Icelandic phrases. For like sometimes I translate things. So of course, like our languages aren't one for one. So when you guys talk about unlocking doors, we talk about taking it out of lock. I started saying unlocking it, but just like translating word by word, and I was mercilessly mocked that family reunion.
Oh dear. So obviously the when I played Dark Dice with you, I heard your Icelandic in terms of your dwarven languages, and you spoke Icelandic in the White Vault. It seems to be that your Icelandic is actually quite a boon when it comes to your podcasting.
Yeah, I think I've gotten quite lucky with that. I'm not gonna. So I have no idea what my voice is or what that accent or flair that I have to it is. I've been told by other Icelanders that I sound unique. Like I don't blend into whatever the sound of the crowd is. Like if I'm talking, I'm personally quite loud when I talk. I kind of cut out for some reason. And that has definitely helped me. And probably one of the reasons why when Travis was looking for voice actors for Liberty, which is my first voice acting gig, first voice acting part, he like kind of just goes like, that sounds unique. Let's give him a couple of lines, a little bigger role. And then when I did okay on that, he just went like, you know what? We kind of need somebody Icelandic for White Wolf. You come in. You got a like that voice, that sound, and you're also Icelandic, which helps. And it's not just that. I have this feeling. Of course, I can't confirm this because this is other people's perception. I have a feeling when I'm sending out emails, when I'm sending out resumes, that my fucking name stands out. Like when they get the email and they click it, and it's like, wait, what's that jumble of letters over there? Because my name literally has the unique Icelandic letter, which I think you guys call thorn, which is thought. It has an O with a dot over it, which is O. And then it has an EY, which makes a unique sound. So when I say my name, it sounds nothing like it looks like on paper. It is a very confusing thing. Yeah, I think Icelandic has been a massive boon for me, especially since I'm from a small country. We're 340,000 according to the recent surveys, which is smaller than many towns.
And 2/3 of whom live in Reykjavik.
Oh, yeah.
And it's suburbs.
Yeah, we've had that metropolitan bullshit happen here, too.
So what then got you into D&D? Was it the long nights or the long days?
I'm happy.
Where did that come from?
I'm happy to tell you that. It's kind of weird. So my older brother, who's 4 years older than me, had a couple of nerdy friends when he was younger, and they played the Icelandic version of D&D, which is called Askur Yggdrasil, or I don't know how you pronounce it in English.
Yggdrasil, yes.
Which is basically based off the Norse god.
The Norse.
Yeah. And that was way too complicated for me. So he made a modern system just with a piece of paper and a pen and played it with me, I think once, and realized that I was too immature to actually take it seriously. I took that piece of paper, copied it, and then played it with my friends who all were like, what is this? What are we doing? And I'm just like, I don't know, just run around with me, play with me. And yeah, I think I had a very overactive imagination when I was younger, and I think that carried me very hard. So I moved from that to finally being old enough to read and understand the rule books of Askur Yggdrasil, and I played that a bunch, but then I realized that system is a bit wonky. It has... I don't know if Pathfinder does this because I don't play Pathfinder, but it had... action point economy. So like, I want to do something, it costs this many actions, then you just write yourself on the turntable at that point. So like, I want to run 8 actions, and then I want to hit with my axe, which is 20 actions. So you put yourself at 28. So you put yourself at 28 as hitting that guy with axe. However, that guy has a bow that takes 5 action. He could shoot you 5 times on the way there. And it's like, this makes sense. This does make sense. But it did mean that like certain types of combat was just unviable. Heavy weapons didn't do enough damage to make up for it. And I wasn't happy with that. So I moved over to basically the Final Fantasy of tabletop role playing, which was 3.5 D&D. Played that with a bunch of people, so many people. Played 4th edition, maybe 2 or 3 campaigns, not much more than like 20 sessions, and we all decided it was not for us. We did not play with models back then, and I understand the whole debate about it, but whatever, let's move past that. And then 5th edition came along, and oh my god, the resurgence within my friends group, then my current friends group, as I'd moved out of my little tiny island to Reykjavik for education. Oh, they loved it. So, yeah, we've been playing that a lot.
Obviously, you're involved with TLD, so that's a nice marriage of podcasting and the role-playing. What's it like being in campaigns that are then chopped up and put out there for people to listen to?
It hasn't been that much different. I'll admit there has been some things that I've had to amend. Like I have very crude talk. I curse a lot in my common just when I talk. So I'd had to like tune that down a little bit because that's just not fun for listening to. It's not fun to listen to somebody curse nonstop unless his character's good at it and funny at it, and I am not. Like it wasn't that much weirder. I don't know. Like it's. If you play D&D in person, there's a certain energy. There's that energy of interaction, friendship. You're all trying to one-up each other. Everybody's laughing, and there's nothing to distract, and you know that you have the person's full attention. I have, however, been doing a little bit online D&Ding, online tabletopping, which isn't being recorded. And I've noticed that the energy, that in-person energy, does not get replaced by the attention of, oh shit, this is being recorded. So it has this like kind of magical weird flip where in person you have this energy that you just want to have fun and be laughing and just one-upping each other and like thinking of crazy things and everybody's joking and there are little talks in between and all that stuff. And then you translate that to online recording, and it's like that energy gets replaced by the attention and the focus of like, okay, we're recording this, so we have to stay on the ball. So it's like in a weird way, there's such a tiny change as long as you're feeling okay on the microphone. And thanks to Volonda, she made me feel very welcome from the day one on the TLD podcast. So if you go back and listen, you can hear a couple of flops on my behalf where I'm not sure if I should be repeating myself, if I should be talking to them. My character talks a little bit too much and then not at all for a while. You can hear me getting comfortable, but they all were very accommodating. So it was surprisingly easy and quick to get into it for me.
And forgive me, I'm not actually a listener to TLD.
No problem.
But I've certainly interacted with you in the form of my character, Daichin, and enjoying just being absolutely horrible to squash. What are some of your what memories for you stand out from your time on TLD?
I think if you're asking in relation to Daichin, it is in the backstory where he drops squash. And you can hear that in our new promo that we were working, released, well, now like a couple of months ago. We have that part in the promo because I fucking love it. Like I remember listening back to it and just going like, yeah, I could have screamed more, but that just sounds fucking amazing. It's great.
But in general, do you have any? What's your favorite memory from anything TLD?
Genuinely, first recording with them, we go shopping, which is Volonda's kryptonite. She hates shopping. And I'm still figuring myself out, as I mentioned earlier. And we meet some, like, she's gonna try to like blast over it and just go like 20 gold, you get your stuff. And they're like, oh no, we wanna like, and I'm like Squash at that point is trying to get some drugs because she stole my drugs like 5 minutes earlier. So I'm working on that whole thing, and we have to go talk to people. And she, for some reason, mentions we're buying a climbing kit, and she for some reason goes like, "Oh, are you climbing somewhere close by?" I think it was like a Scottish character or something, and I don't remember exactly who says it, but somebody says like, "Be careful of the cliffs that are like overhanging the town." And my character just real quickly, and I don't even know why I say it, I'm just like, oh, are those the haunted cliff where the kids, where you can hear kids screaming at night? And there's a genuine, like, 10-second pause as V just goes like, what the fuck is this? How dare you do this to me? What am I gonna have to do to get me out of this? And she starts playing around with it, and Archie's and Neil's character start interacting with this, and their interaction is the funniest fucking shit in the world. And like, I think they cut out like me wheezing in the background when like Raul's character just goes like, "I'm afraid now. I'm not afraid, Balance. I don't want to climb the cliffs." And he's just like, "We're not climbing the fucking cliffs. That's why we're not getting this." And it's just the funniest fucking thing, and that genuinely sticks in my mind as my like moment, like it just clicked. Like, okay, the next 3 or 4 sessions of Squash is just gonna be a blast. This is amazing.
Volley might have said something about how she really appreciates how much you drop her in it from time to time. She was really, really happy about you doing that.
I think that's what's it called? Like Stockholm syndrome. Like I've done it so much to her, she's just going like, oh no, I love it. Keep doing it, you idiots.
Yes. Do you listen to any other RPG podcasts or anything, D&D podcasts, or is it is it too much?
I used to. that's why when I was offered to be on TLD, I jumped at the chance because I'd heard some really, really good ones. There's a strange small one that seems to have entered a permanent hiatus at this point, which is called Dungeons and Doritos, made by Cat Blackguard and the Nerdy Show crew, now known as the Omniverse. And then there are like two ones that I don't even remember the names. I had just randomly, they ended up in my feed when I was working in construction, and I just listened through most of it, and then I gave up on both of them because they never upgraded their mics. I'm up to like episode 60. That's like 60 hours, and they're still like, they seem to be recording a mic next to a mic, like to a speaker of somebody on Skype. It was just, I'm just like, I'm enjoying your story, and I'm going to steal a lot of the stuff I've heard to play in my own campaigns, but no, this is not good.
There have been a few podcasts that I've listened to where, unfortunately, there's been something like a microphone not sounding good for too long, and that it's a turn off.
It is,
and it's sad when that happens, especially when they've got a really good story.
It is. It's such an unfortunate thing, and it hits me in such a dumb way because like I got myself my first microphone for anything like professional recording was a Blue Yeti.
Yes,
and like they're definitely adequate. Just soundproof your room a little bit, and you sound so much better. I made a little fucking video about this. I had my Blue Yeti in my old recording room with nothing up. Blue Yeti in old recording room with the couple of blankets that I hung up, and then my new Rode mic when I got that. That's why I was making the video with and without the soundproofing. Just the day and night, just with the just 3 fucking blankets on the wall. Just it's all you need. It's all you need, and you don't sound like you're in a garbage can.
It's true. One of my when I went to drama school and I was doing my recording. I was doing it in the linen closet.
yes, the linen closet.
And there it was with all of the sheets and the towels and everything. And I was using a crap mic, to be perfectly honest, because this is like 13, 14 years ago. It was not a good mic, but being in that linen closet really it helped.
It's upsetting how much it helps, and then you have people that don't do it. I'm not going to name any names, but my friend just recorded like I think close to 3 hours of audio in his room with nothing up on a snowball. It's just like, of course, like when he sent it to the guy, he was just like, I can't use this. I know this is your first time, but like I cannot use this. And he came over and recorded his stuff. Like he just came over for like a weekend. We drunk, we had fun, we laughed, and he recorded his stuff and edited it. Like no biggie, but he knows better now.
Good stuff. What do you think is the because there's been a huge rise in D&D and that kind of and the knowledge, the awareness of D&D over the last few years. What do you think that's down to?
I don't think this is going to be a popular answer, but I think it's down to the fact that the formula, what was it called? White guy sitting around a microphone talking about things trademarked. That market got exploded. And it was the only thing around. So I think it's basically just like people became aware of how much nonsense they were listening to. And then like podcasts with storylines and characters and laughter kind of came into the forefront. So like basically you could take, and this is not going to be a popular thing. It took people that maybe weren't the most interesting or charismatic in front of a microphone, and it gave them characters to play through and storylines to interact with, which elevates their interests. And I think just a lot of these, if D&D wasn't a thing, if Critical Role had never gotten it into the main light, we would still just have a massive market of white guys talking about things in front of a microphone, yeah, trademark. But instead now we have a bunch of white guys sitting around a microphone talking about D&D, trademark. Like I think that there was just an oversaturation, and there was just this one thing that can kind of drag you into it. It happens in every market. YouTube has gone through many iterations of this, where something just explodes because the old market was done, it was saturated, and this is just a new market, and and I think it helps a lot that a lot of people that play D&D on mic, they sound human. They sound like people. They don't sound like Bruce Willis or damn it, I'm missing some names here. But there are people that have those like unique voices. They have that.
Like the Samuel L. Jackson and the
people that just whose voice just cuts through everything, and that used to be the only people that really could make radio. But with this, it's just like, oh no, we're like it gives the little guy a chance, I guess.
Yeah, and obviously for every podcast, for every market, you need a listenership. What is your community like? What are your listeners like?
I don't like calling them my listeners because I just I just sat down on like Volonda's, Neil's, and Arch's and Casey's transcodes. I sat on their tailcoats and just like, all right, this seems fun. But I've stepped up to my my position as a member of the TLD at this point. But their community is amazing. It is genuinely amazing. I know everybody says that, oh, our community is amazing, the most inclusive, welcoming community ever. Like, yeah, leave that shit at home. No, you guys are crazy. It's really fun to talk to you. You guys keep the Discord alive. It's every day there's something new on there. You guys are just talking about whatever. And it's fun. It's great. And I really hope that we're making the stuff you guys want because, I'm happy to record this for literally 0 people because it sounds amazing. I want this to exist. That's genuinely my feeling about TLD. It's like I like Squash comes in about episode 40-ish. So I binged 40 episodes in about a week. And I was just amazed at the quality of their stuff. Like, yeah, sure, there are like crappy microphones here and there, and there are like episodes that aren't like action-packed or like super interesting. It's setting up the next episode. But I was just amazed at the quality of these like 4 dudes just kind of hanging out and recording. And I was amazed. And when I get to come in with Squash and Wee gives me all of this freedom, she literally started the first recording with the guys like, what was it that she said? PvP is on. If you guys do something dumb, you will die. Like I am not saving you from your actions. And I think that kind of attitude is why TLD has such an engaged audience. We have, compared to our download numbers, we have just so much interaction. And I think that's great. And I love that. And I love talking to every single one of you out there. Thank you all for listening.
And it's really interesting that you have that perspective of being a listener and then coming on to the show itself. That must be very unique.
Oh, it was. And it, of course, had that like weird, nerdy fan vibe where I come in with everything super fresh in my brain and I remember all the little details. So I come in and I'm just like, oh, yeah, no. Like, you guys are on 23 of sword training. Oh, no. Like, you can use that health potion in that dungeon like 3, like what to you is a year ago, but to me was like yesterday. So, of course, I come in with that like kind of weird vibe that completely got cut. Thank you, Neil. But it's kind of weird to come in as a fan, kind of. Of course, like, no offense towards TLD, I didn't even know they existed until Wee approached me and asked me if I wanted to play a character. Like, from listening to it, like I said, like it was quality, and like I said, like I dropped 2 like long-running actual plays, and this one just like kind of grabbed me in a good way.
Do you think there will be a TLD live? Would you like to do a TLD live?
What are they called? I think it's Glass Cannon that did something very clever where they started on live story they only play when they're live. And I remember telling Volonda when I heard about that, like, I was mad at myself for never thinking of that, because that is incredibly clever. That is exactly what you need to do. Like, of course, for podcasts like this, which is super story heavy, and you cannot let the audience influence your decisions and your choices. However, if we make the Lucky Die After Dark, which would be some kind of a weird live show, we could have it completely different. And now, of course, Yeah, like we could change DM, although I'm pretty sure a lot of audience members would not be happy with that. We could change systems. Again, a lot of audience members not happy with that. But like, hey, like we can at least play around. We're not stuck in Bicron, and we're not stuck following the story of the blissful eclipse.
And how did you find, just out of curiosity, how did you find White Vault Live? Because that was the last time we interacted on stage together. Well, we weren't on stage together. We were on the same stage at slightly different times. How was it being on stage?
Horrifying. So how to phrase this without sounding absolutely insane? No, there's nothing insane about this. Just be honest.
No.
I was a bit of a class clown when I was a kid. I loved attention. I loved stage and all that stuff. I've never been afraid of public performances or anything like that. And I think it's mostly because of my short-sightedness. I don't understand the thing I've gotten myself into until I'm on the stage, and at that point it's too late to turn back, so just fucking do it right now.
That's brilliant.
And it was the same thing happened during our last live White Vault recording. Volanda's getting a little bit stressed the night before, and I'm like, don't worry about it. It's once we're getting the green room that I'm like, oh Jesus, I'm going pale and I'm sweating, like, oh Jesus, I don't know my lines. So I find it's quite terrifying once I'm on the stage, but it takes literally seconds of reading, and it seems to just go away. Again, I think this is very much down to my love of the spotlight, love of the like being silly and wacky and getting people to laugh and having their interest. Yeah, like I've always been a storyteller at heart. Storyteller, that's not like entertainer at heart. I'm not good at telling stories, but I'm funny, I think. And other people seem to think, I think. Oh boy, I've gotten myself into a hole.
That's okay. No one's laughing now.
You're the worst.
I know.
I enjoy stage play, and I would love to do more of it. And I would love to do some of it in improv. Of course, the White Vault, Ashore, and then White Vault. Oh, I don't Artifact. I think that's Lana's.
Iluka is the one that's just being released for Patreons.
Yeah. No, that's the two live shows.
Yeah. Sorry, yes.
Those two are clearly, of course, scripted, so there's no improv in it. But I would love to do some improv on stage. But I also have a feeling that if I did improv on stage, started a sentence and didn't know where to go with it, there would be that table flipping, running off the stage moment for me because I don't know how to handle that moment.
You've just got to trust your colleagues on stage that they will be able to pick up and not leave you in it, unless they are being utterly cruel, in which case they will leave you in it and they will turn and look.
That is a thing in my life. So this is just a running thing that happens in every fucking group I get introduced to. I get introduced to it, we're telling stories, we're laughing, we're having jokes and shit like that, and about 3 weeks later, it's a joke to, like, it's fun to pick on Eyþór. And I enjoy it. I think it's fucking hilarious to, like do little mean jokes and, like, put each other down and stuff like that. But it seems to happen in every single fucking group I go to. They seem to start realizing, like, you know what? He enjoys being picked on. Let's get in on this. It's like a weird, like, non-sexual, like, sadomasochism bullshit that's going on in my life, in my social life, and it can't be the worst when you're trying to be normal in front of new people, and your friends are just like, oh yeah, that's just Eyþór. He's a garbage eater, and I'm just sitting there like, that's how you fucking introduce me nowadays? Jesus.
We should have started there with so Eyþór, why didn't you introduce yourself?
Eyþór.
Hi, I'm Eyþór. I'm a garbage eater.
Hey Eyþór, why do you eat garbage? Can you explain yourself?
That's brilliant. So this has been a fantastic interview. Thank you, Eyþór. But is there anything that you would like to add at this point?
I don't have anything smart or interesting to add, so I'll go for the easy one, which is inspirational. Like, if you enjoy podcasts, if you enjoy voice acting and all that stuff, it's easy enough to get into. There's no money here. Please, for the love of God, come into this knowing there is no money here.
It's true.
It's an annoyingly true thing, but it is fun, and there's a huge community, and there is a certain joy you get for being part of something that's being created. And can't recommend it enough. We need fresh voices. We need more voices. Sure, the market already has more than enough people on it, but it always can use more. And it's fun. It's incredibly fun, and everybody's really accommodating, and everybody kind of just wants to make more stuff. So if you enjoy that, just try to get into it. Like, try to join us in this weird world. It's dumb, but it's fun, and yeah.
Absolutely, and I will echo that because I got into this whole thing because I was looking for Doctor Who audio dramas and found that's where I came from. I had a couple of lines in a Star Trek fan fiction, and it all went from there. So I just thought I could do this and grabbed that crappy old mic, but I just went for it, and here I am 15 years later, and people might have heard of me. I don't know. But it is such a lovely, lovely community. And I know you said earlier on that you wouldn't say just that it was a nice community because it's always a nice community. But it is a genuinely generous and welcoming and warm community. And it's so good to be a part of.
It is. We, of course, have our drama queens, but it's always kind of just fun to mess around in. And so I don't have anything real to add to that. So I guess my ending would just be like, if you enjoy anything that I've been into, like if you enjoy Squash, the character I play, or Gref, and you want to hear more from me, I am on the White Wolf, which probably most of our a lot of our fan base came from. I am from Dark Dice. I am in Dark Dice, which is a lot of other part of our fan base comes from. But I've also been part of Counterbalance, which is a story that Cassie Relinicki is working on, and it's currently on a light hiatus as she's having what's it called, hardware issues. So it hasn't updated for 3 to 6 months, but she had hardware issues, then she had medical issues, so that combined means you have no money, so you can't do anything. So it's no biggie, but it is a really creative fantasy podcast, which I think is cool. It's fully scripted. You might enjoy it.
Fantastic. Well, thank you, Eyþór, and we will look forward to hearing you more on season 2 of The Lucky Die. So now we welcome to the interview chair Neil at Bardic Martin. Neil, welcome to The Lucky Die. Have you listened to this podcast before?
Hello. Yes. I listen to it every once in a while, you could say.
Every once in a while, yes. Because what exactly do you do within the world of The Lucky Die? And then we'll get to outside of it. What do you do within the world of The Lucky Die?
Within the world, I play Rawl. And I play Ivris in Kino. And outside, I do the editing for the show. So all of the vocal arranging and the music that we have on the show.
Right. So let's leap straight in then with that. Editing The Lucky Die must be quite a formidable job. So I don't know how long your normal play sessions are with regards to what actually gets into the podcast itself. Would you like to take us through your process?
Well, the play sessions are not much different from what appears on the show. Outside of the occasional technical difficulty where we have to stop for a second. The episodes are not too long to where, we can't make it through a whole episode before all having to stop and break. So typically there's really nothing much to cut out. I might shorten some pauses here and there, give people time to think. Yep. If anyone is taking time to think, that's okay. I don't usually leave those in. But otherwise, there's not a whole lot that gets taken out, really.
Okay, that's... So I suppose by this point in season 1, or we've now finished season 1 because this is going out in September or October.
Oh, goodness.
Everyone is used to the format of The Lucky Die, so knows what they can say, what they can't say, and that makes your job very easy.
Yeah. Everyone is, we've set our standards from the start of, what we want the show to sound like, and everyone... everyone performs like they want to hear the show at the end, you know? I don't know if that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense.
Yeah, it's a different like environment to play in versus table because it's more, I guess, like less jokey. You know, once you get into it, you have to like stay in it. You know.
And what got you into it in the first place? What led you to D&D?
I had a buddy introduce me to podcasts, and I just listened to some comedy podcasts for a while. At the same time that I listened to those podcasts, I had another buddy, Hannah. Hey, Hannah. That I told, hey, D&D sounds like something that I could be into. Yeah, because it just came up in discussion one day. I was like, we should try it. And I thought it was going to be like a really easy game to get together and play. I didn't really understand the prep that went into it. So I was like, why aren't we just playing this? Come on. And it took forever. But yeah, I finally did some local games. And because I was already listening to a couple of comedy podcasts, as soon as I figured out that, D&D is a really cool story medium, I've always been a musician, and I kind of was just like, that's something that I could, always wanted to do something like that. Let's see if it works. It was a shot in the dark. I didn't know if I could do it.
And how many years on now is it that you are still going?
Is it the third?
3 years on. Right.
Third now. And the time this comes out, is it going to be the third or fourth? I don't know. I try not to keep track.
So outside of podcasting and so forth, who are you and what do you do?
My name is Neil. You know me. We went over that.
Yeah. I don't know you personally, but
no. Yeah. I played music. Music was my focus throughout school. And I switched around instruments. I didn't really find anything that I took too naturally for a while. And because in the early stages of moving around instruments in the school system, I kind of missed all of the music theory bits. And so I kind of just had to learn to play by ear. And I played trombone. So, once I learned how to make the sound out of the thing, it was pretty much like learn where the positions are. And then you just figure the rest out over time. It's easy to get the sound. There's less buttons. It's more easy for me. Didn't have to know what I was doing.
Yeah. Okay. Yes, I can see that. But trombones, it's an interesting instrument to work out.
Yeah, I didn't know how to read sheet music forever. My band directors didn't really know that because I could just blend in with everyone else.
Oh no!
Because I could just play what the person next to me was playing. I could tell. Like, we play these things every day. I know what everyone's playing and what I'm supposed to be playing. But as my band directors got more and more irritated with me, my high school band director was actually kind of very confused about how I'd made it that far, because I don't like, I'm not a braggy person, but I was like, I had a good like horn sound. And he knew that I played by ear and put me in the jazz band. I did like a year in jazz band, just kind of warming into it. It was fun. Yeah. So the prestigious high school program was great. But the next year I had to start like doing the improvising, the solos during the jazz, the breaks and stuff. And I didn't know how to do that. And I didn't get it. Okay. Even though I played by ear, that wasn't like a thing. I didn't know how to like just make up something. And there was a lot of like him making me just stand up very uncomfortable and play. Just make stuff up. It was a lot of just like painful, but I kind of guess I learned how to use improv, and I still don't know a goddamn thing about music theory. Not a clue.
So you know how to exist in the world, but you don't necessarily know all the rules of the world.
Yeah, I mean, I know my way around the certain instruments that I can that I've spent more time around. But I have the instruments that I've spent time around. I know about them because I've been around other people that know about them and talked with those people. I had already learned how to, do my thing on the instrument by the time that I learned, more technical guitar terms, for example.
So you've done some jazz. You've done. Or I suppose your bandmasters will have tried to have got you to do some more sort of classical music.
We did marching band. You couldn't be in just jazz band. I would have loved that, but yeah, we had to get out in the sun and be miserable.
Boo.
Marching band, prestigious program there too. It was fun. That was fun. Mm-hmm. And then I went to a college in Louisiana, art college, to be a band director. And that was a bad idea because I didn't know anything about music theory. But I thought I could learn, real fast. Turns out that was not true. So I dropped out after one semester and decided to buy a guitar and figure something out, And I found a couple of people locally that were like serious about being in a rock band. And we started playing around here. We played a little heavier music, And then we all had the opportunity to kind of tag along with one of our buddies' parents. I'm saying so much. I hear it, and I hear it when I'm editing, and I'm going to complain about it now because I hate it that I do it, and I can't stop it. There it is.
I do it as well. So I've learned to find the waveform.
Yep,
and it's so obvious. So I feel your pain.
Shit, where was I? Their parents were moving out to San Diego, and we got to all tag along, and we packed our mattresses in their moving van. They went out there a couple months early with all of that, and so all we had to do for the last couple of weeks that we were wrapping up our stuff here, our jobs and this and that, was pack all the small things into our car and drive out there. And we all did that as a group, and it was a good time, a good experience. Mm-hmm. I was out there for 2 years and moved back, lived here for a while, paid off some of the debt that I had accumulated for the gear that I had gone through, because guitars are expensive, and living in California is expensive. And it's hard to pay off guitars when you're living in California because this is expensive. So then you have to come home and live with mom and dad because you don't know what you've done with your life because you dropped out of college after the first semester. So then you go, and what do? You make the same mistake again. And you try to move to Ohio to do a rock band.
Okay.
Did that for a year. It was fun. But, I was just kind of getting to the point where I wanted to figure out how I could do music on my own. But I didn't know much about theory to be a great solo musician. That wasn't me. I sit in a group really well. I improvise with those around me. I'm not technically fantastic on any one instrument by any means. And I didn't know anything about recording, but I had been into the studio. I knew some of the terms. I knew the basic ins and outs of that. So I started picking up with the gear that I had in the time. I started working on, I say solo stuff, but I really wasn't working on anything serious. I on and off tried to get serious about some concepts, but overall nothing came out of anything. But I was basically just for a while learning how to record this and that, and using different software, miking cabinets and stuff, which I don't really do anymore. It's just too much of a pain, and I'm nocturnal. I can't have guitar cabinets running. It's been fun, a fun learning process, but basically that's what I've been doing since. Was not all that well versed in it when I had started this, because most of what I had was just, I would save ideas of riffs from guitars and drums and stuff that I just mess around and create little half songs and never finish them and just leave them somewhere as a sketchbook and never come back to it.
Oh yes, I think we all have one of those sketchbooks, whether it be for writing stories or songs or sketches of different things. I think we all
But
have one.
because I can't write things like mathematically, musically, like and piece it together in a logical way. If I can't like hum it or sing along, if I don't remember it, how it goes, I can't play it. I don't just remember, okay, well, I remember it was a G chord and a D. No, that's way beyond me. So if I can't remember how it sounds, I've lost it. So I was just getting into recording to save ideas so that, maybe eventually I would have enough of them laying around that I could piecemeal something together. I don't know what I was doing.
And so you had all of the kit. You then got the interest in the podcasts and trying out the D&D. So
yes.
How did your involvement in the Lucky Die come about?
We had met. Some of us had met beforehand through another failed project, and we had all played together before. And a lot of us wanted to continue playing, and we all really wished the other thing had worked, and we knew we were all serious about it. So naturally, we tried again on our own, and here we are. Basically,
here we are.
I mean, we just knew each other through another failed project, but we all found each other on the internet through various means. I think mine was like Reddit or something. I'd seen a post looking for people for podcasting, so I replied. It's like, hey, I wasn't even like, I don't consider myself a voice actor. I don't have voices. I hadn't like played much of D&D yet. I was ill prepared for anything. I was just like, hey, I could help out on editing maybe.
Right. And then you got back on, or you got onto this side of the mic.
Yeah. And it was, I mean, in just talking, we all just worked well together and clicked. And since then, it's all been the same.
Yeah, and I think I'm certainly building up this picture of someone that is just willing to try everything.
I mean, I dedicate myself to my projects to the point of like moving across the country to them and being in debt until I'm 30 for not college, that's for sure. But it sure feels like college debt. It sure feels like small business loans,
Yes, I can see that. So what is it about D&D that has caught your attention for the time being?
A lot of when I was looking for schools, rewind, when I was looking for schools, I decided to be a music teacher because that was easier than being a music composer, because that's what I really wanted to do. I really wanted to like make music for movies and stuff. And
okay, yes.
At the same time that I was getting into a lot more kind of like art rock and stuff, there was a lot of musicians and bands and stuff that were playing rock music that I found that I really liked, that was getting, it was being used in movies and stuff. It was like, the genres of music that I liked were starting to branch out, and I like kind of cinematic music sometimes. I started to recognize more people in the film scoring that I was, the movies and such. And I've since like followed. I used to watch a lot of movies. I super don't anymore. I got into the D&D podcasts that I listened to. I just really liked the form of storytelling. I've always been driven to fantasy worlds and fantasy games and this and that. And naturally, it was just a really good place for me because I wanted to tell stories with music, and I didn't really have a place to do that until this. So that's cool.
Yeah.
It's weird to make music that's not what I exactly want to be making in the moment. You know what I mean? Because I come home at the end of the day at work and I have to edit the episode. And I was going to talk about this earlier, I forgot. But the way that we released episodes is kind of like we record them and we don't have them sitting around too long before they release. We've been up until this point. We started out doing really well in backlogging and stuff. And I was at a place in the earlier episodes where a lot of the music and stuff that I was listening to was getting verified by everyone. And like, there was plenty of time for it and stuff. But nowadays it feels like I'm getting together an episode of South Park, that we filmed the week before. And doing it spontaneously has been kind of a new thing because when I have a longer period of time, I can like search for those emotions a little bit more and pick and choose the day that I want to work on this part and that part, you know, based on just what I want to do, what I'm feeling at the moment. Sometimes I just have to figure it out.
Yeah, absolutely. And I suppose having it being edited essentially on the fly must bring more of a vibrancy and a spontaneous feel to the episodes.
Yeah, I definitely think that shows because, like I said, I don't cut that much out. I don't over edit. I don't think. I hope. But I definitely like the very natural, like table feel, and try to fit my music and like behind that the best that I can. You know, I don't want it to ever be really the focus of what's going on.
Yes, it's a difficult balancing act to have with music because you don't want it to overpower, but you also don't want it to distract. And it's sort of good background, but also you want to be, showcasing and things like that. It's music is a difficult one to get right.
Yeah, I have to put things out sometimes that I'm like iffy about, and a lot of times I'll listen back to it later and I'll be like, you know what? That's all right. That wasn't bad. Yeah, because when I'm making something, I just my issue is that I hate it as I'm making it. I almost just want to throw it out, but you know I can't. And eventually, I just have added so much to something that I feel like it's done, and I can't add anymore, or it'll start sounding, muddled.
Oh yeah. I suppose you can't be too perfectionist when you're running on a deadline.
I've set myself up now to where in a lot of the music that I liked was ambient. I liked a lot of ambient droning and this and that. So I don't really do a whole lot of like technical playing. So I don't have to sit and write a whole lot. I can kind of like let a chord sit in something for a while and, use that. And I do a lot of moving chords around. I don't use a whole lot of like silence and this and that.
And who are your composers? Who are the people that you look up to?
It's a lot because I get to do a lot of genres for the show, which is something I also really like. I get to play around with the violins that I like and the guitars that I like and stuff. And, it was a relief that I could fit guitars and stuff, the things that I was already doing and things that I had been doing for years into a D&D thing, because I was like, is everyone just going to want horns and piano? Is it going to be really weird when I, play guitar? And I think in the early episodes, I used guitar like a whole lot more than I do now because I didn't have super good like string patches and stuff to pull from. So, now I have more libraries to take advantage of when I'm looking for a certain sound. When back then I just had, my guitars and my pedal board, which is now even better than it was then, and I haven't really used it a whole lot.
So in terms of how the episodes are received, what can you say about your listeners?
Everyone is very nice. Seriously, everyone's real great. I love how interactive the Discord has been and Twitter.
Yeah. Has anyone done any fan art of your characters?
Yes, we have a bunch of fan art on the website that gets updated. We have a whole section of it. It's crazy when people do fan art of the show. I'm like, yeah, that's how I imagined it. That's crazy. What? Yeah, I still get blown away when people do that because, when I started playing D&D and listening to podcasts, I so badly just wanted to, be in a game that had a really great story. And I think V does a very good job at that. And so really glad to just kind of back her up on the music half. Let her do the storytelling and just kind of cross my fingers and hope that I'm not drowning it out.
And so you say that V does a very good job, and she does. But what is your favorite memory of D&D Is there a particular standout event that you would like to tell us about?
Honestly, probably like the first weeks into starting this. Well, we didn't know if anyone was going to listen. We had no idea, you know. We didn't know what it was going to be. V just had this idea. We all made our characters. Mine was dumb. I had dumb ideas. But I think that after that first session, at least I remember, everyone had their first, back to the backstories and this and that. And I didn't know what everyone else was playing, but even after just the backstories, I was like, oh yeah, V's going to tell a good story. This is going to be good. I was just excited about it. And I didn't know anything about shit at that point. That was just like Rawl and Ama just interacting like once. I was like, oh, this is going to be good. I can tell, I'm going to be able to tell stories. This is going to be good. And I was just excited about that. And then when we all got together, it was just reaffirming that with everyone, each individually, like seeing this character, like, oh yeah, this is going to be fun. And then seeing, the other character. Yeah, this is going to be fun.
So you'd started doing the podcast before meeting everyone in person?
Oh, well, we all met up for the first session because we did our back to the beginning. So before the beginning, the first like actual session was just me and V, like session 0 technically, I guess you say.
And you have all met up in real life. What was that like?
It was fun. I don't travel very well. It turns out.
says the man that moved from Louisiana to California, back to Louisiana, up to Ohio.
Yeah, I thought because of that I would travel really well, but I guess like when you travel to your bed and it's already in another place, you kind of like, you've got your safety bubble in the other place already. You just got to get there. I don't know. Just an anxious traveler. But in any sense, yeah, meeting everyone was very great. Everyone's just as nice in person and just as great as, they have been for years online. So it was all real fun.
What would you say to someone that is interested in D&D but doesn't quite know where to start?
You got to find the right people, because if I've heard of anyone that's ever tried D&D and really not like found that they were able to get into it, maybe it was just the group, maybe because everyone has their different style. And that's not to say that one style is better than the other, but maybe it just wasn't vibing with you. I think that there's something for everyone in it, regardless of whether that's our show or not for you, because I know that we're very, RP oriented. Just by homebrewing and reskinning things, you can just kind of make the game whatever you want to be. You don't have to follow books. The best part about D&D, I think, is making your own story. When you get caught up in trying to recite someone else's story and their ideas and this and that, some of the creative side is lost. So find the story that you want to tell and tell it, because, I don't know, that's what I think is fun in D&D. If you want to do math, that's cool. But I've yet to find a person that was like, the story could have used less of it, needed more math.
I happen to love maths, so but then that's why I'm not a full-time D&D-er. I just sort of come in and do the occasional data line.
Well, you can do D&D stories about math.
Yeah, well, I'll have to speak to V about that.
You can do more mathy systems if you want. But the game is really like what you want to make of it. So there's a system out there for everyone. Doesn't have to be D&D. Just find a tabletop RPG, find some good people, and a good story to tell everyone, because, that's what it's about.
Absolutely. Find the story that you want to tell and tell it. And we will see you on the upcoming season of The Lucky Die.
Yes. Excited.
So I'm joined by a voice that I know as the archivist from the White Vault, but you probably know her as something slightly different. Hem, would you like to tell us who you are and what you do?
I'm Volley. I am the world. I am Big Cron. I am every voice, everything that anybody ever meets in TLD, the Lucky Die. And I also voice Daichin when you don't record before the lines get beautifully replaced by you. So good. You add so much evil to this. It's incredible.
Your gold is on its way. Thank you very much.
I appreciate that outro more than you could ever know. I was so unexpected on my end. I was like, oh my God, this is gold. I know exactly which episode to put this in. This is going to be great.
I'm looking forward to the interview with Eyþór, just to be able to just bring back squash. And all the fun that Daichin had with squash. Anyway, I'm leaping ahead.
We digress.
Yes. So yes, what is it that you do? Let's just start with outside of the Lucky Die, and then move into the world.
So I am a qualified mechanical engineer. I did a lot of high-end physics products. I did a lot of design on that. I have done everything from sweeping the floors to machining to being covered in epoxy to being covered in copper dust. I've done the works. I have done the works, but mostly in design. However, I quit that. And decided to pursue creative stuff for a while. And then I moved to Iceland, so I had to get a real job. So my real job now is I am working at my local sea life trust as what officially my title is guest admissions host. So I stand at admissions and take people's money and let them see our beautiful animals. But I kind of end up doing a lot of health and safety and a lot of other jobs around. So it's very interesting. I meet a lot of new people.
with a background in mechanical engineering like that, you've got a tremendous skill set to be useful in any kind of post-apocalyptic scenario that the world decides to dream up for us.
Yeah, kind of. Like the worst comes to the worst, I'll be able to build something to save my life, hopefully. It just might take me a little bit longer.
The background in mechanical engineering and then the move into creative stuff, those are two fairly different strands to your bow.
Yeah, they're definitely something I never admitted when I was working at my old job. It's like everyone's talking about how they built cars at the weekend or what like infrastructure they're building in their house. I'm like, I played Dungeons and Dragons.
But wouldn't you say that, because I go into schools when they're open, and damn, that's dating it. Stop it.
Well, it also sounds a little weird. We need to reiterate, I think David's a teacher. He's supposed to be at a school.
When I go into schools, I give talks, I do various things like that. I'm also a private tutor in maths and sciences, as well as being a professional actor. So that's sort of all those sorts of things, because my background is astrophysics. So
that's again one of those astrophysics voice acting.
Yes, exactly.
You wouldn't necessarily they think they go in hand.
But I'm sure you'll be able to back me up on this. But when I go into schools and I talk about what you can do with a background in science, technology, engineering, and maths, or STEM as it's known. The opportunities are vast simply because the amount of imagination that you need for working as an engineer, working in a STEM subject is huge, especially when you get to the upper realms of maths. It's all in the imagination.
Yeah, pretty much so. I mean, upper maths is basically imaginary numbers and all this good jazz.
Absolutely, yeah.
I was paying attention in math class, Carl. Yeah, it's again, like having studied like mechanical engineering, like you wouldn't think, oh, naturally the sidestep in that in the professional world is health and safety manager.
Yes.
You wouldn't necessarily think there's a direct path, especially the training I had was very, very specialized. Like, no, there's a lot of transferable skills. And I trained as a technician, and then later on become something else. I completely forgot what it is now. But basically it means that you have to be creative in your problem solving.
Absolutely,
and
yeah.
STEM gives you the kind of knowledge base without you realizing it, that you can be like, oh, I can do this and this. Aha, yes, rather than someone who has absolutely no idea looking at it going, I don't even know where to start. You have a good starting point. And if you're able to think of creative solutions and you enjoy that kind of process, it goes very much hand in hand and it sets you in good stead for the rest of everything. Like, You can almost always find a job.
Absolutely.
I say almost always. I've had some interesting experiences in game, but you can almost always find a job in STEM.
Yes. And so this wonderful skill set of imagination and creative problem solving must be really helpful when it comes to building your worlds in D&D.
Yes, absolutely. A lot of Dungeons & Dragons is quite mechanic heavy. And also the lore is quite mechanical. The lore is quite mechanical. Like how the planes work, how magic works. And I looked at it and went, like the inner engineer of making things for production, which means making things a lot easier and cheaper and, more repeatable. And I looked at the mechanics of most of D&D lore, went, I don't ever going to remember any of this, and this is way too complicated. So if I cut this, and this, and I put this, and this here, problem solved. And that's really how the world and lore of TLD came about. I think if you have a very creative mind, creating worlds is very good, and it becomes like a as almost natural as breathing at some points. It's like, oh, I know enough about this world that I can ad-lib if they do something dumb and not have to worry about it. I'll deal with it later.
Yes.
Yeah, if you have a creative mind, it's definitely something worth getting into, but not getting in too far. Like, you don't need to tell them what the colour of the 4 moons in the sky are. Like, no one's going to look up. I think we've done, at this point, because we're recording this quite far in the past compared to when it will come up. I think at this point we've done 128 episodes recorded, not including any side stories or any keynote or anything. And I don't think they've looked up at once.
Oh, that's disappointing. Hopefully Eyþór is listening to this on the other side of that curtain.
Because he has very horrible things he just makes up about my world. And I'm like, all right. Okay. It does help as a DM having creative players. I appreciate it. It can be a pain in the ass, Eyþór. But it can also be beautiful and beautiful and glorious, and I enjoy it very much, Neil.
Why did you get into D&D in the first place? What attracted you to it?
So I've always done role-playing in one form or another since I was probably about 12. So back into the day when forums were the thing, which is basically what Discord is now. Yeah, I used to play by post, which is like, a message board, and everyone just added a bit to the story from your character's point of view. And I have very, very strong, very fond memories of that. And then that board got taken down, and then a friend of mine went to university and came back and said, "Hey, I've got Dungeons & Dragons, want to play?" I'm like, yeah, fuck it. I'll give it a shot. There's booze involved in this game, right?
Yes.
And ever since then, I probably haven't stopped role-playing, really. And that was probably 12, 13 years ago, something like that. It was just fun. It was just a nice outlet of like, I don't have to worry about what my exams are doing right now, things I can't actually control. Instead, I'll wonder whether I can make off with the innkeeper's daughter without anyone knowing, like that sort of thing. So, yeah.
And obviously you're a DM in The Lucky Die, but you've also been a player. What's the balance for you between player and DM?
How do you mean?
As in, how often do you DM versus how often do you are you the player? Because obviously, I first encountered Dungeons and Dragons personally as in Dark Dice when I sat down for that first. I had no idea. I had these pages of stuff. Of here are your mechanics. Here's what you can do. It's like, I don't know what to do with this.
Yep. Travis is very good at giving you guys so much information that it was like, well, I'm just going to try a thing and see what happens, which is genuinely my favorite thing with newer players, people who don't really know the system. You just tell them like, hey, just role play a character. It helps that you're an actor, so you understand the art of improvising. Yes. Here's a character, pretend to be them. Great. It's a good start, which is nice. So you do things like, I'm going to do this, and like, there's not really a mechanic for that, so I'll make it up. And Travis is very good at rolling with those. And he's very good at cutting out all the meta talk, all the talk of rules and how to do such like. But your role playing was on point, so.
Oh, thank you.
I was like, I can believe he hasn't played D&D before because the mechanics are a little rusty in places. But the role playing was on point, man. I'm like, he's done this before. He knows what he's doing. He's great. And they were like, this is my first game. I think I was like, we were talking about like Eldritch Blast, and you were like, no, tieflings can do that, and I'd forgotten. I'm like, no, only warlocks can do that. I was like, this is my first time. I'm like, oh my god, it is. I'm so sorry.
Yeah, I have the sheet of paper. It says here. Okay.
It says I have this thing.
I can see it. Please let me do it.
No, you did great. So don't put yourself down on that. It was a lot of fun playing with you.
I've seen worse. It's true.
Yeah, you have seen worse.
That's an in-joke. If you haven't listened to Dark Dice yet, why not?
And also, you have at least listened to 2 if you've gotten this far, because we did a crossover with them, so you have to have listened to them. And also, David's in it, I'm in it, Eyþór's in it, Kessie's in it. Yeah, there's loads of us in it.
Yeah. But coming back to the question, so you obviously were a player there, you're a DM in TLD. Which do you prefer?
I think it depends on the game. I have such a fondness for both. I love being the DM. I love having to constantly be on the ball and being challenged by my players, because my prep, I have a lot of world prep and I have a lot of like general idea prep, but I don't have specific prep because my players are 11 pieces assholes and do whatever the hell they want. So having to be on my toes all the time and be creative and improvise all the time is great, because I never used to be good at it, and now I feel like it's a skill set I kind of have, and I love doing it. But I also really sometimes miss being a player, of being able to just submerge into a single character and just like stay behind their ideals and their experiences. And there's something that's just so, especially when you get very attached to a character. Many philosophies on character play either treat them like sheep and cull them when you're done with them, or like get ridiculously invested in them like a prize dog. I'm very much the prize dog person. I get way over attached to all of them. And I miss sometimes having those long-standing characters. We don't record Dark Dice all that often. I think it's been like 8 months since I last recorded anything for Dark Dice, so it's been a while. Yeah, so I don't actually actively play much as a player, and I do miss that on occasion. But there is something that's just fun about seeing everyone's faces when you drop like emotional bombs on them.
Yes,
I can't get away from that. It's so good.
I began to fear whenever Travis said, "Right, I'm going to need you to make a Constitution saving throw here."
You need a con save to stay awake.
Yes. Yeah. I really enjoyed doing Dark Dice, and it's just a world that I hadn't really looked into before, because I know there are people doing D&D nearby, but I don't really know how to get into it like that. But what do you think is the cause of the popularity of D&D? This sort of increase in knowing about it, wanting to play it, and finding out more about it?
I think it's probably a really big mix of things. Obviously, Big Bang did we have a D&D episode kind of thing, and that did some stuff. A lot of those kind of type shows, I think South Park has probably done something related to it too. Futurama, I know, definitely has like an entire, I think a movie based on the idea that they're playing Dungeons and Dragons. If not, it's a really good episode, and I encourage watching it. There's a lot of that, it's beginning to slip into that part of the media where a lot of other people tend to know about it. But I think the rise of things like Twitch and podcasting, Twitch. With at least I found with TV, I've stopped watching TV about 7 years ago or something like that. I just
there's nothing on.
Find it interesting. Yeah, there's nothing on. The stories aren't as in depth as they should be. They always seem to follow the same script. Yada plus yada equals yada. Okay, yeah. But there's something different about D&D. Knowing that people are having to respond in the moment makes it, at least to me, a little bit more real. So I think people can you can follow the person behind the character as well, which is it's a big part of the role. And I think people seeing that live on Twitch, don't get me wrong, there are some really bad Twitch RPG playing out there. And I encourage you not to be the people who just put no effort into it. If you're going to do it, put a little bit of effort in, put an overlay on, man. Like, just give it a shot. And there are some really good ones out there, obviously being things like Critical Role and the ones that are officially won by Wizards. And there's a lot of people out there making good work out of the RPG community. And it's interesting to watch. And that has, I think, what helps to push it forward. And it's also... It's a kind of fake memory that you share with your buddies when you're actually playing it. Like, I will always remember the time that my one of my first games, my DM decided to clamp our cart. So she put a magical chain around our wheel so we couldn't move it with a magical lock that no one could undo. So we removed the wheel from the cart and we left with one wheel missing. So that's a memory I will always share. It may not be as, it may not be as physically tangible as, me going out getting drunk with my buddies, or the time that I shot a crossbow and it, like, the bolt flew over the shed and I got really nervous. Like, it may not be as physically tangible as that, but it's a memory that I will always share. And it's a very in-depth memory that I have. There's a lot of things associated with it. There's a lot of good stories. So, yeah.
And what made you decide to podcast your RPG?
This actually goes back a fair bit. So I found a group on Reddit. I have only been to Reddit twice. I don't want to talk anymore about that. So my first trip to Reddit was literally, I was trying to find another game to play. I wanted to have another one of those deep, meaningful characters because my home group were doing a bunch of one-shots, and that's not really my thing. Despite how many one-shots I run on TLD, it's not really my thing. I wanted a long-term character, so I went on Reddit and I was like, this guy was basically saying, hey, looking for maybe voice actors, if you can do a voice, or if you're into role-playing, like, this may be a thing for you. So I talked to him, and that podcast started, and that podcast fell apart, and we were all a little shocked by that, and that's how I met Arch and Neil, and we were all a little bit shocked, and I went, so I have a dumb idea. I have a story I think we could tell. And they were like, all right, cool, we were going to do a podcast anyway, let's do that. I'm like, oh, shit. That's basically how that came about. It wasn't until we'd done, like, the failed project that I was like, oh, I could do this. I think I could do this. And I unfortunately voiced that thought. And if I hadn't have voiced that thought, I would have chickened out. I would never have said this. And here we are 3 years later, I'm still doing it like, this would have been a good idea.
How long is your current campaign? Because I remember you saying, or the campaign that has just finished at the end of Series 1, which has just finished.
Yes, cough. At this point,
cough.
definitely,
No, don't
we
cough
have
at
recorded
this
that. So we started playing almost, I think when this episode comes out, this particular interview, I think we'd have been playing for about 3 years, give or take.
Wow. And how long are your sessions?
So we record anywhere from, like, if we're like, oh shit, an episode has to come out this week and no one has time, we record an hour and a half. Like, that's one episode. If we which we are now into a very solid routine, we record anywhere from 4 to 6 or even 7 hours.
Wow.
And that gets us a fair amount of content, and that makes me and Neil very happy because it gives him backlog, which is essential for anyone who wants to keep their editor sane. Don't make them do everything last minute for a prolonged period of time.
Very true.
Because holy Hannah, Neil was losing his shit. So we record for a fair amount of sessions in a row. I've been slow. I've gone back through and I started counting up all the content of how long each episode is, because I'm like, it'd be interesting to know, yada, yada, yada. And I have only clocked up to episode 115 when we record this episode. And we were closing on 7 whole days. So I think by the time season 1 ends, we're going to be the other side of 7 whole days of content. I'm like, that's a good point to just call it season 1.
Yes. Here you go. Stay awake for a week and listen to this.
Yeah. I also have no concept currently because when this episode comes out, we'll be in a hiatus, which gives me time to write more content for season 2 and for Neil to take a break. And yes. I don't know at the moment how long season 2 will be. I do not. I hope for the love of Pete it's not another 3 years. I don't think I have another 7 days of content in me.
Fair enough. And obviously you got to episode 128 or whatever it is at this point.
Whatever it ends up being, yeah.
But you got your 7 whole days of content. There must be a wonderful group of people out there consuming all of this content. Can you tell us a bit about the community?
I'm going to say y'all are nuts. I don't understand. We're just sitting around playing a dumbass game that I did on a whim. Like, I have a vague idea, and then I was like, shit, I need to create plot. Shit, I need to create world. Crap. I don't understand. Y'all are crazy, but they're incredible. All of you are nuts. And I love you to pieces. Like, our Discord is very active, and I've gotten to know a lot of really good, nice people through that. And like, I just launched the website yesterday, and I'm like, hey guys, can you help? And they were just flooded with things that they could spot and help with, and they're so nice and so good. And we've had fan art, and that just blew me away. The first piece of fan art was just like, holy crap. I was sitting there like, I don't often do the crying thing, but I was like, I should be crying right now, but I can't. And I just saw this art, and like, someone drew that because of something dumb I said. This is nuts. And it keeps rolling in. And that, to me, it floors me. We put up our Patreon, admittedly, quite late normally for a podcast. And most of our goals that we set out were funded within 24 hours. And I was like, I'm sorry, what? I'm sorry, what do I have to do now? Oh, God. Now I need to write a script in a second campaign. Okay. It's crazy. You guys are amazing, and I love all of you, and it means a whole lot to us that people support us the way they do. And just gotten to know a lot of nice people, and y'all are great.
Yeah. Over the last, I've been doing voiceovers and voice acting now for pretty much 15 years, which is a long time straight out of university. But from what I've found, people in the audio drama community are just the nicest people.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I can imagine that translates also through to the RPG community and all of that kind of stuff. So it's a really lovely group of people that the internet has been able to bring together to create, to support, to cheer on. It's a really life-affirming business to be in. It's
I don't know to say, but it's really nice to see people that follow, because I do voice acting too. I do things here, there, and everywhere. Well, I will be doing even more once I have my studio set up, which should be when this episode goes out. I mean, my studio. It's really nice to see people follow you from one project to another. Like, you must have clearly heard this, had this experience.
Yes, I have. When I started off, I was a little bit of an audio whore. I will freely admit that it was like, do you want a British voice? 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 And it's like, okay, yeah, I'll do that. And as the years have gone on, I still find it bizarre that people actually do know who I am. It blows my mind going on tour with No Sleep and people saying, "Oh, I really loved you in XYZ," and it's really great. It's amazing, and people going to search you out for the other things that you've been in. It's incredible.
I saw you work in that room at the No Sleep when the White Vault opened for you guys. I saw you work in that room.
Maybe. And talking then about the White Vault live and No Sleep live, do you think there'll ever be a TLD live?
Oh boy. So most of our fans are American. As you can probably tell, I'm not. David's not. Kareem, who does Wirama, is not. Eyþór clearly is neither British nor American. Kessie is also German. So, unfortunately, the sheer cost of just flying 2 of us from Iceland out to America is hideously expensive. And also, TLD doesn't lend itself very well to doing live one-shots. And it would have to be a one-shot. That would be the unfortunate thing. We can't record an episode live because we are so far ahead, and I would never want to let that audience energy, which is, by the way, incredible when you're standing on stage. You're like, holy crap, these people are looking at me. Holy shit. Actually, I remember when we opened for, the White Vault opened for No Sleep, I stood out on that stage. I was the first person who opened her mouth that night, and I'm like, oh my God, and the sound was wrong, and I freaked out. Because Travis had his soundboard set up, but whoever it was upstairs hadn't turned off the No Sleep, monster music.
Oh, no.
And I looked at Travis, I was halfway through that first speech, which is time, so I can't fuck it up. If I fuck it up, we're screwed.
Yeah.
And I turned to Travis partway through the first one, I just shook my head and said, we have to stop. Caitlin will murder us if we keep doing this. So we had to start the whole show again. It was okay. It was only 30 seconds in by the time I realized that something was drastically wrong. But that energy is intense, and you can feel it. It's very electric on stage. And I think the manner in which we tell this story, it doesn't lend itself very well to the outside force kind of feeding in. So it would have to be one shot, and I'm not sure that I have the energy to do that or anyone would want to see it. And apart from that, it is hideously expensive. A lot of us suffer with a lot of anxieties, and I'm not sure I ever want to go back on stage again, but never say never.
But you're brilliant. You can't not go on stage again. So there was something my dad once said is you have a face for radio, and I very much went for that. So I'm very much happier on this kind of conversation than I am, for example, anything streamed or anything in front of real people. In front of real people, no, I'm not okay with that. This is so much easier for me. So yeah, this makes me very happy. I fully understand it. It is a whole. It's an experience going out on stage.
Well, you've done it a fair amount of times now. How do you get through this?
Yes.
Give me advice if this stupid thing ever comes to pass, David. Help me.
What, when the billionaire philanthropist who listens to TLD decides to fly you all to one place and fly every single audience member as well. There was something, because I did go to drama school. I did 2 years of a 3-year sort of acting degree. This was after I'd done my astrophysics degree, because why the hell not?
Why not become a career student?
Yes. So I then, one of my tutors said, you can do all of the prep you want. You can know what your character has had for breakfast, the specific way that they have come to where they are today. You can have all of the lines ready in your head, and you know your motivation, and you know where and when and what. But the moment that you hear your cue line, you have to walk out on that stage, say fuck it, and deliver your lines. And that is actually one of those piece of advice that I have taken, that, people are there to watch you. Everything has come together for you to be there and for you to share the writing, the enjoyment, the energy. Everyone in the audience is wanting to have a really fun evening. Everyone's positive, and you just got to go out there and just give it to them.
Yep. They are there for a reason.
Yep.
They want to see you.
Yep.
I did drama at school, so I only did GCSE. I actually did A-level drama as well. But I
that's
used to work
further
with...
than I got. I gave it up in year 9.
Oh, blimey!
Yeah.
No, we did a whole improv. That's a whole ordeal. I'm not going to go into. But I used to do a lot of amateur dramatics at my local theatre.
Yes.
And the very first show I was in, I played a boy who was going through his GCSEs. So I had my hair tied back, my arm was in a sling because the kid had thrown himself off some scaffolding. Again, a whole ordeal. And I was the first line on the stage, and that silence got shorter and shorter the more times we did this. As I was the first time, I think it was a solid minute, I was sitting there playing with my sling and playing with my props. I'm like, I don't know what to do. I'm terrified out of my mind. Oh my God. And then by the last night, it was a 4-night stint, I think it was. And it was 20 seconds, the curtains were up. I'm like, yeah, fuck it, I'm out of there now.
Yeah, and people say that fear and excitement are the same thing. You just interpret them differently. And it's that buzz that you get when, for me, it's sort of David Cummings announces, and please welcome from Ripon, England, Mr. David Ault. And it's just like, oh, okay, on we go. Hooray.
I always used to really enjoy the very last night when you come off and you finished your run, because that energy behind the stage is fucking crazy. It's nuts. Everyone's like, yes, we did it. Hell yeah. Like, even I hadn't been on stage for a very long time when we did the opener for No Sleep, and my energy after coming off that was unbelievable. It was crazy. I could not stop moving. I could not stop drinking, which was great. That was an interesting night. I will not be sharing with people.
Yes.
Yeah, there's something magical about coming off of the stage, especially if you've done a solid performance.
Oh, absolutely. Our last performance in the UK and European tour that was back in January of this year, the last show was in Stockholm, and it was in front of 500 odd people, and that was the biggest audience we'd played to, and it was in this amazing theatre that was part of the hotel we were staying in, and it was just, and the Swedes are just lovely people.
Yes.
and it was just, it was mind-blowing how wonderful that whole thing was. But then you get to the end of it and you're just like, oh, okay. But we're not, what you oh, okay. And you just want to go on tour again.
Yeah, there's so many emotions. Yeah, not right now. I mean, 7 months in the future, this is going to be fine.
It's all good.
It's all fine. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, as much as I miss some of the aspects of theatre, I don't think it's something I'd ever be comfortable with again. And doing a live show, I don't know. I don't think so.
But it might, if the billionaire philanthropist does come along and says, yes, I haven't paid any taxes for the last 20 years, so here is a lump sum. Oh, did I get political there? Sorry.
Yes, you did.
You see, this is why I'm fine voicing Daichin. It's like
beautifully evil. Your ad-libs have been so on point in some places. I think it was the first track you sent me for Squash's backstory. You added a laugh and you said something really mean. I'm like, hey, Neil, I know it's not in what I wrote down, but put this in. Put this in now.
Oh, it's so much fun. I love it.
Yeah. I don't know the fate of Daichin at this point, but I'm pretty sure it'll be sealed by the time we hit the end of season 1. We'll find out.
Yeah. If you need any more evil characters, obviously I'm available.
I know there's a British voice actor going around. I'll find him.
A self-professed audio whore. Fine, cool.
Yes, perfect. I will take him. And I guess we'll see. We'll see how things go. So
excellent. Well, is there anything that you would like to just say to the community at this point? Anything that you would like to round everything off with?
Thank you, because I'm pretty sure we would still be doing this podcast out of just sheer love that we have for the story and for our characters. But thank you for being vocal and reaching out and talking to us, because it really makes what we do have something else to it that makes it just so much more worth it. Knowing that other people enjoy this, it blows my mind. I still don't understand why. And seeing y'all do this amazing stuff and talking about us, like, it makes it worthwhile. And I just want to say thank you for that.
Fantastic. Yeah. Well, thank you, Hem, for a lovely interview. Well done on finishing season 1. And we will look forward to another 7 days of audio with season 2. Is there anything else that you can think of that you'd like to say?
I don't know. I could barely think of things for the questions.
And Icelandic's an interesting language as well. I think you're getting a coffee delivery.
Oh, I am getting a coffee delivery. This may be the nicest thing she's ever done for me.
Aww. Only because it's on camera.
Yes.
There's witnesses. Again, it's just gone. It's a Monday. This is the problem. It's a Monday.
It's okay. You can put a pin in that and
yep.
insert it after that question if you can remember it later.
It probably wasn't that good anyway. What was it like having? No, hang on. No. Formulating questions.
It's okay. It's a Monday.
Can I just ask you to comment on that?
Yeah.
As if I've just finished saying that sentence. If you just say, yeah, it was
yeah, of course.
We will look forward to another 7 days of audio with season 2.
Oh, God, I hope not. I will probably cut the interview before I say that, though. Hi, everyone. It's V here. Just wanted to say thank you for listening to this. We did record this quite a while back. So, yeah, things have probably changed a little bit. We hadn't recorded the finale, I don't think, at that point. So, yeah, things are a little crazy. We hope you enjoyed it. A little talk with us and behind the scenes and finding out who we are. And I learned some interesting things about my castmates. And and also we should really say thank you to David, who did an amazing job of being an interviewer. So major props to that. It was really good fun. This was nightmare to organise, but I think it's really worth it. So I'm going to say thank you to David. And thank you for listening. We really appreciate it. If you want to help us out a bit, you could be kind enough to leave us a review somewhere. We love reading them, and it really helps us with visibility to have other people see that your word makes an impact on people. So, yeah, if you want to help out, that's one way of doing it. You're about to hear an ad for Dice Tower Theatre, so if you want to binge more things, that's definitely worth a listen. So, catch you later. Bye.
There are 3 paths presented to you.
The blue flame has the great risk, correct?
Are you sure, Sophie? I foresee a path you can understand, let alone tread, but you will have to walk yourself.
I am no stranger to being alone. I know it better than anything else.
Ambush!
Vix left a note saying they were going to explore and...
For all intents, I should have you exiled.
They're with us now. The Sunless.
This is blood.
Are your minds made up too? Then step into the room behind me, adventurers. I wish you find what you seek and can heal your world.
Dice Tower Theatre, wherever you find your favorite podcasts.